Welcome to the Home Envelope, brought to you by Nealon Insulation. Whether you're a Connecticut homeowner, contractor, or just curious about how homes really work, this podcast explores what makes homes more comfortable, energy efficient, healthy, and durable. From insulation and air sealing to ventilation and whole home building performance. Let's get started.
Picture this, it's early February. It's like 10 degrees outside, freezing cold.
Oh yeah, the worst time of year.
Right. You wake up in the morning, grab your coffee, walk into your bedroom, and you hear it. Just a slow, steady drip.
The sound every homeowner dreads.
Seriously. You look up, and there is literally water dripping straight through your ceiling right onto the floor. And your roof isn't even old.
Right, there hasn't been a windstorm or anything.
Exactly. No missing shingles, you haven't done anything wrong, but somehow it is raining inside your house.
It is honestly just an incredibly sinking feeling. Because you're standing there watching the drywall bubble, feeling completely helpless. I mean, the actual source of the water is buried under a foot of snow on your roof.
It's a nightmare. So welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are taking you into the fascinating, expensive, and honestly maddening world of roof ice dams.
Which is incredibly relatable.
Oh, for sure. If you live in a cold climate, you know exactly what we're talking about. Those massive, sparkling ridges of ice hanging off the edge of the roof.
With terrifying icicles. Yeah. The ones that look like stalactites, and of course the sudden, mysterious water damage. So, to finally get to the bottom of this, we've pulled together a really massive stack of research today.
Yeah, we have some fantastic sources for this one.
We really do. We're looking at digests from the Building Science Corporation, guidelines from the U.S. Department of Energy, Energy Star air sealing protocols, plus a bunch of field insights from top roofing and insulation specialists.
It's a very robust stack of data. And, the most striking takeaway, the overarching consensus across all these agencies, is that ice dams are really merely a symptom.
Wait, a symptom, not the actual problem.
Right. They are just the visible distress signal of a larger systemic failure within the home. It's not actually a failure of the roofing materials themselves.
Okay, gotcha. So our mission today is to demystify this entire process for you. We're going to figure out exactly how these ice dams form and why popular scapegoats like your gutters are completely innocent.
Totally. Yeah, and we'll cover how you can use applied building science to permanently protect your home from winter roof damage. Because, nobody wants to spend their weekend on a ladder in the snow hacking at their roof with a hatchet.
Which, by the way, is incredibly dangerous for both you and the roof. Please don't do that.
Yeah, we will definitely cover why you should leave the hatchet in the garage later on. But first, to fix the problem, we really need to understand the physics of what we are actually fighting here.
We do. We have to move past the visual symptom, the icicles hanging off the edge.
Right.
And look at the thermodynamic chain reaction that's actually creating them.
Okay, let's unpack this. How does an ice dam actually form?
Well, to build an ice dam, nature basically requires two environmental conditions to exist simultaneously. First, obviously, you need snow sitting on the roof.
Okay, step one, add snow. Check.
Right. Second, you need uneven roof surface temperatures. So specifically, the upper part of the roof deck has to be above 32 degrees Fahrenheit, while the lower part of the roof remains below 32 degrees.
Down by the eaves, right?
Exactly, down by the edges.
Wait, so why is the snow itself so critical to this process? Beyond just being frozen water that melts, does it play an active role?
Oh, it plays a huge role as an insulator. For anyone who hasn't spent a weekend, staring at pink fiberglass in an attic, an R value is just a measure of thermal resistance.
Basically how well a material stops heat from passing through it.
Yeah, exactly. The higher the number, the better the shield. And just 1 foot of fluffy snow can provide an insulation value of R10 to R15.
Wow. So the snow is acting like a heavy winter blanket just draped over the house.
Precisely that. So when the upper roof deck warms up, it begins to melt the very bottom layer of that snowpack, the layer physically touching the shingles.
Because it's trapped under the blanket.
Right. Because that thick blanket of snow on top insulates it from the freezing air outside, so that bottom layer of liquid water doesn't refreeze. Gravity takes over, and it begins flowing down the slope of the roof, completely hidden beneath the snow.
Oh, man. So it's kind of like It's like a glacier melting on a stovetop, but then it runs into a freezer door at the edge of the counter.
That is a great analogy. And that freezer door is the eave of your roof, the
Yeah.
overhang, because the eave extends out past the exterior walls of your heated house, right?
Yeah, so it's just sticking out in the cold.
Exactly. It is completely exposed to the freezing ambient air on both the top and the bottom. So when that hidden river of meltwater hits that freezing overhang, the stovetop ends.
And the water refreezes instantly.
Bam! Instantly, forming the very beginning of the dam.
And I imagine as this melt-freeze cycle repeats, day after day, the dam just grows thicker and higher.
Yep. It essentially creates a solid wall of ice that traps all the new meltwater behind it in a pool.
And this is where the structural damage begins, right? Because roofs are engineered to shed water moving downward.
Exactly. The asphalt shingles overlap like fish scales, basically to guide water off the house. But roofs are not designed to hold standing pools of water.
Right, they aren't bathtubs.
No, they aren't. So when water backs up behind an ice dam, you get hydrostatic pressure, which is just the sheer weight of the standing water. And it pushes forcefully against those overlapping seams.
And the sources highlight another physical force here too, capillary action, which, if I remember right, is the same force that lets giant oak trees pull water all the way up from their roots to their leaves.
Yeah, it's wild. The surface tension of the liquid water allows it to slip through the microscopic gaps between the overlapping roof shingles.
Oh.
Yeah, it travels horizontally and even vertically upward, completely defying gravity.
Wait, really? It climbs up.
It literally climbs up under the shingles, breaches the waterproof underlayment, and penetrates the wooden roof deck itself.
Which means the water is now inside your house, dripping onto your bedroom ceiling.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've established that the ice dam forms because the upper roof is unnaturally warm while the bottom edge is freezing. The next logical question has to be, why is the upper roof warm in the dead of winter?
And that takes us inside the house. The primary driver of a warm roof deck is heat escaping from your home's heated living space right up into the unconditioned cold attic space.
It's completely counterintuitive, though. I mean, you'd think if you just roll out a 2-foot blanket of fluffy pink insulation up in the attic, the problem is solved.
You would think so, but
Like, if I have an R60 rating up there, why do I care if there's a tiny gap around my ceiling fan? How is enough heat getting through to melt a literal glacier on my roof?
it is honestly one of the most common misconceptions in home maintenance. We have to separate two different types of heat transfer here: conductive heat loss versus convective heat gain.
Okay, break that down for me.
Sure. Insulation, like your fiberglass bats or blown-in cellulose, resists conduction. It stops heat from transferring directly through solid materials, like from the warm drywall to the cold wood.
Gotcha.
But convection is the movement of heat carried by air.
Oh, so the insulation stops the heat radiating, but not the actual air flowing through it.
Think of it like wearing a thick wool sweater in a windstorm. The wool has, a great insulation value, but without a windbreaker over it, the cold air just cuts right through the knit.
Carrying your body heat right away. Okay, the wind just blows right past the wall.
Exactly. And in a house in winter, you're fighting a really powerful force called the stack effect.
The stack effect.
Yeah. Warm indoor air is less dense and more buoyant than cold air, so it naturally rises. This creates a positive air pressure at the very top of your house.
Kind of acting like a chimney.
Right. The house pushes warm, humid air up through any unsealed structural bypass it can find.
So for someone looking around their house right now, what exactly does a structural bypass look like?
Oh, they are everywhere. Recessed can lights are massive culprits.
Really? Just the ceiling lights?
Oh, yeah. When they install those, they punch a hole in your drywall, pop in a metal cylinder, and the heat from the bulb plus the air from the room just flows right up through the gap around the housing into the dark attic.
Wow. What else?
Plumbing vent stacks going up through the ceiling, attic hatch doors that don't have weather stripping, drop soffits over kitchen cabinets, or even the gaps around a masonry chimney.
So these are basically direct, unsealed highways for warm air to bypass the drywall ceiling and blast the underside of your roof deck.
Exactly. And the research points out a totally devastating feedback loop here once the water actually gets inside.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
When that meltwater from the ice dam breaches the roof and drips into the attic, it saturates your ceiling insulation. And materials like cellulose and fiberglass are highly vulnerable to moisture.
Because when they get wet, they just clump together.
Yeah, they compress and they completely lose their loft.
And when they eventually dry out in the spring, do they, fluff back up?
Unfortunately, they don't. They lose their thermal resistance permanently. which creates this self-reinforcing cycle of destruction.
Oh, I see. Because the wet insulation leaks more heat from the house.
Yep, which warms the roof even more.
Which melts more snow, makes bigger ice dams, creates more leaks, and then ruins more insulation.
It's a vicious cycle.
Wow, so I'm destroying my ceiling from the inside, but meanwhile, I'm outside freezing on a ladder trying to hack at my gutters. Which brings me to a huge question. Why are we all so obsessed with attacking the gutters if this is purely an attic problem?
I think human nature just leads us to blame the thing we can actually see. The gutter fallacy is one of the most persistent myths in building maintenance.
Let's be unequivocally clear on this for everyone listening. Gutters and gutter guards do not cause ice dams.
No, they don't. Gutters are completely thermally neutral. They're just passive drainage systems.
They're literally just cold metal troughs hanging on the side of the house. They don't generate the heat required to start the melt-freeze cycle.
Exactly. What they do is act as a convenient shelf.
Yeah.
Because they extend even further out from that cold overhang zone. They give the freezing water a place to anchor and build upward.
And ice is shockingly heavy. The research noted that solid ice weighs roughly 57 to 60 pounds per cubic foot.
Yeah, that immense weight is what rips gutters right off the fascia boards. You know, the flat vertical board where the gutter is attached.
But the gutter didn't start the freeze.
Not at all. Blaming the gutter for an ice dam is honestly like blaming a bucket because your roof is leaking into it.
Right. Taking your gutters off for the winter won't save you. And speaking of things that won't save you, let's talk about the terrible, dangerous ideas people have for fixing ice dams once they appear.
Oh boy. There is a very long list of bad ideas.
The sources are emphatic on this.
Yeah.
No axes, no chisels, no hammers.
Please, no. You will destroy your shingles instantly. Asphalt shingles become incredibly brittle in freezing temperatures.
So one missed swing with a hammer.
Or one aggressive chip with a chisel,
Right.
and you shatter the shingle. You've just bought yourself a roof replacement.
Yikes. I've also seen people drag hot water pressure washers up onto the roof.
Oh, that's almost worse. High-pressure water will strip the protective mineral granules right off your asphalt shingles, completely ruining their lifespan.
And doesn't it push water inside too?
Yeah, even worse. That high pressure will force water straight through those overlapping seams and blast it directly into your attic.
Okay, what about those electric zigzag heat cables you see hardwired onto roofs? They look like they're doing something productive.
They are a prime example of treating the symptom while ignoring the disease. Heat cables waste a tremendous amount of electricity trying to melt the outdoors.
Right, you're literally heating the neighborhood.
Yeah. Plus, the heat can embrittle the shingles over time, and ironically, they frequently create secondary ice dams just above the cable where the artificial heat stops.
Oh, of course. Because you melt a channel, the water flows down, hits the unheated part of the overhang, and just freezes again.
Exactly that. You're just moving the dam 3 feet higher up the roof.
All right, so what actually are the acceptable emergency fixes? Let's say, water is actively dripping into someone's living room, and they need immediate triage before they can fix the root cause.
Okay, there are 3 safe options for immediate relief. First, if you can safely reach the roof from the ground, use a long-handled aluminum roof rake to pull the snow off the lower 3 to 4 feet of the roof edge.
So by removing the snow, you remove the insulating blanket.
Right. The roof gets whole again, and you eliminate the water source.
Okay, roof rake from the ground. Check. What's next?
The pantyhose trick.
I love this one.
It's so weird, but it works.
Mm-hmm.
You take a nylon stocking or pantyhose and fill it with calcium chloride. It is vital to use calcium chloride, not rock salt.
Why not rock salt?
Because rock salt will chemically damage your shingles and kill the plants below when it washes off.
Good to know. So then you lay that filled stocking vertically, like perpendicular across the ice dam so it hangs slightly off the edge?
Right. The calcium chloride slowly melts a small vertical channel right through the wall of ice. It doesn't melt the whole dam, obviously, but creates a drain path.
Allowing that backed up pool of water to finally flow off the roof instead of into your house. It's a brilliantly weird, specific visual. A pantyhose filled with calcium chloride sitting on the roof. And what's the third emergency fix if things are really out of hand?
Hire a professional mitigation company that uses True Steam. True Steam operates at temperatures above 275 degrees Fahrenheit, but at extremely low pressure.
So it slices through the ice like a hot knife through butter.
Yep, without putting any mechanical stress on the brittle shingles underneath.
Okay, but those are all just Band-Aids. Now that we know hacking at the roof and blaming the gutters doesn't work, how do we actually stop this from happening next winter?
Well, the building science sources lay out a very clear three-step permanent solution. We call it the trifecta of prevention.
Let's get into it. Step 1.
Step 1, and this is by far the most critical priority, is air sealing. You have to stop that convective heat loss at the source.
The Energy Star guidelines are super specific here. It basically means putting on a mast, getting up into the dusty attic, pulling back the existing insulation, and finding all those structural bypasses we talked about earlier.
Right, the recessed lights, the plumbing pipes, the wire penetrations, and a great trick for finding them is to look for dirty insulation.
Oh, because of the airflow.
Exactly. When warm indoor air leaks up through fiberglass, the fiberglass acts like an air filter, catching all the household dust.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, so if you pull back a bat of insulation and see a darkened, dirty patch, you've found an active air leak.
Once you find it, you seal it, using expanding polyurethane spray foam for the bigger irregular holes and high-temperature heat-resistant caulk for things like hot furnace flues. But the Department of Energy guidelines had some very serious safety warnings we definitely need to mention here.
Yes, two major things to watch out for. First, if you get up in your older home's attic and see insulation that looks like pea-sized, flaky gray gravel, that is vermiculite.
And that's dangerous.
Historically, much of it was mined from a site contaminated with asbestos.
Yeah.
Do not touch it. Do not disturb it under any circumstances. Have it professionally tested.
Good warning. And the second warning is about the air quality of the house itself, right?
Yeah, so if you do a spectacular job air sealing an older, leaky house, you actually alter the indoor air quality.
Because it's too tight.
Right. Without enough natural drafts, you could trap radon gas in the basement or cause older combustion appliances, like a gas water heater, to backdraft carbon monoxide directly into the living space.
Wow. So if you seal the house aggressively tight, you will likely need to add mechanical ventilation, like an air exchange system, just to ensure the indoor air stays safe and fresh to breathe.
Exactly. It's a whole system. But once the attic floor is completely air-sealed and safe, we move to step 2, insulation.
Okay, so now that we stopped the windstorm, it's time to put on the thick wool sweater.
You got it. Depending on your local climate zone, the Department of Energy recommends upgrading attic insulation to an R value of between R49 and R60.
That's a massive amount of thermal resistance, and the sources point out it is crucial that this insulation remains uncompressed.
Yes, and that brings up a framing technique for new builds called raised heel trusses.
Yeah, I read about this. Because normally, where the roof slopes down to meet the exterior wall, the space gets really tight, right?
Right, it pinches the insulation down to just a few inches.
Yeah.
A raised heel truss is built up taller at the edges, basically lifting the roof up slightly so you can maintain that full, thick R60 layer of insulation all the way out to the very edge of the exterior wall.
Brilliant. Which brings us to step 3 of the trifecta. Attic ventilation.
Because even with perfect air sealing and thick insulation, some ambient heat will inevitably escape into the attic.
So ventilation is how you flush that residual heat away before it can warm up the underside of the roof deck.
Exactly. And the absolute gold standard is a balanced soffit-to-ridge system.
Soffit vents being the intake grills located under the roof overhangs, pulling outside air in.
Yeah.
And the ridge vent is the exhaust opening running along the very peak of the roof, letting air out.
Yeah, you want to aim for a 60-40 ratio, meaning 60% intake at the bottom, 40% exhaust at the top.
Why slightly more intake?
Having slightly more intake at the bottom mildly pressurizes the attic with cold outdoor air. That creates a uniform, continuous washing flow pattern directly under the roof sheathing.
Which are the flat wooden boards beneath your shingles.
Right. And you also have to use baffles, these little plastic or foam chutes,
Yeah.
to make sure your thick new insulation doesn't accidentally bury and block those soffit intake vents.
Oh, that makes sense. You don't want to choke the system you just built. But here's a crucial code correction we found deep in the Building Science Corporation data.
Oh, the gap size.
Yes. Standard building code usually calls for a 1-inch continuous vent space under the roof sheathing.
But building science field studies show that a 1-inch gap is frequently inadequate. In regions with ground snow loads over 30 pounds per square foot, which, by the way, covers most places that get serious winter weather, you actually need a 2-inch continuous gap.
Just to effectively move enough air to flush away the heat.
Precisely.
So if I'm visualizing this trifecta, it's basically like dressing for outdoor winter sports.
I like this. Go on.
You need the tight windbreaker base layer to stop the draft. That's your air sealing. You need the thick fleece mid-layer for warmth, that's your R60 insulation, and your ski jacket needs those breathable armpit zippers so you don't sweat and trap moisture, and that's your balanced ventilation.
That is spot on. If you have those 3 layers working in harmony, you will maintain a consistently cold roof deck, and ice dams simply cannot form. The physics won't allow it.
Okay, but what happens when you literally don't have an attic to crawl around in? Because that trifecta works great for a standard empty attic. But what if you live in a house with vaulted cathedral ceilings or those complex scissors trusses where the drywall is attached right to the roof framing?
Yeah, when you can't access a space to vent it properly, standard rules go out the window. You have to transition to advanced building science, specifically an unvented hot roof strategy.
Hot roof, that sounds like exactly the thing we are trying to avoid.
I know, the terminology trips people up. What it really means is that you are moving the thermal and air boundary of the house away from the flat ceiling and applying it directly to the underside of the roof deck itself.
Okay, I think I see where this is going. How do they actually build that?
Professionals use high-density, closed-cell spray polyurethane foam, often called SPF. This material is incredible for unvented assemblies.
Because it expands and cures.
Yeah, as a dense plastic. It provides a monolithic air seal, completely stopping all convective heat loss in its tracks. And it boasts a very high thermal resistance, about R6 to R7 per inch of thickness.
Wow. So instead of fluffy fiberglass and air gaps, you just spray this dense foam right against the underside of the roof sheathing, filling the cavities between the rafters.
Right. It locks the heat inside the living room, keeping the roof deck perfectly cold on the outside and rendering ventilation totally unnecessary.
So it achieves air sealing and insulation simultaneously.
Okay.
Okay, but what about the really extreme architectural cases? The sources detailed something called the over-roof strategy. They used an Aspen ski lodge as an example, with these massive, sprawling, south-facing overhangs that trap solar heat and sloped roofs that just dead-end right into a vertical wall.
Oh, those architectural designs are absolute nightmares for ice dams. Imagine dark wood siding on a sunny winter day.
Right? It gets hot.
It heats up, creating a thermal plume of warm air that rises up the wall and gets physically trapped under those massive overhangs. The heat has nowhere to escape, so it literally melts the snow on the roof from underneath.
And in these complex geometries, you can't just spray foam from the inside and solve it.
No, you can't.
So what on earth is the fix if you can't seal it from the inside and you can't vent it normally?
You over-roof.
Yeah.
You quite literally build a brand new, highly ventilated roof structure directly over the top of the existing roof.
A roof on top of a roof. That is wild.
You completely abandon the thermal performance of the old roof. You lay down sleepers, create a massive 2-inch or greater ventilation channel, and put a new roof deck on top.
And for those spots where the new roof dead ends into a vertical wall, you can't just cap the vent, right? Because the air needs to exhaust.
Right, the air has to get out to maintain the flow. So you build a snow screen. Think of it like a rain screen for a wall facade that's scaled up.
Oh, okay.
You extend the ventilation channel vertically up the exterior wall behind the siding, allowing the exhaust air to vent safely above the deep snowpack.
Man, that is intense engineering. But it proves the point beautifully. There's a scientific solution to every ice dam problem, no matter how geometrically complex the house is.
Exactly. It's just applied thermodynamics. Manage the heat, manage the moisture.
Let's bring this all together. Ice dams, those massive, terrifying icicles tearing off your gutters and leaking into your bedroom, are not an outside problem.
Not at all.
They are an inside problem manifesting on the outside of your house. So to protect your home, you cannot just hack at the ice or blame the passive metal gutters.
You have to manage your home's heat loss through rigorous air sealing, proper uncompressed insulation, and strategic roof ventilation. Treat the underlying disease, not the visible symptom.
Well said. But before we wrap up, there was a thought in these sources that really stuck with me, and I want to leave you, the listener, with it to ponder. Think about modern architectural trends.
Oh, I know where you're going with this.
Right. We all love scrolling through photos of houses with complex, multi-pitched roof lines, sprawling open floor plans, massive overhangs, and vaulted ceilings peppered with dozens of recessed lights and skylights.
And from a pure building science perspective, those features are incredibly difficult to air seal and practically impossible to vent using standard methods.
Exactly. By designing homes that prioritize dramatic aesthetics and complex structural features over simple physics, we are essentially designing perfect ice dam factories.
We really are.
It begs a fascinating question. As our homes get more visually stunning and architecturally complex, are we accidentally engineering our own winter nightmares?
It's a compelling question to ask the next time you look at a modern home build. Because when aesthetics fight physics, physics always wins.
Physics always wins. So the next time it snows and you're walking the dog, take a look at your roof. Take a look at your neighbor's roof.
Just look up.
Yeah. And if you see those massive icicles forming, remember, it's not a broken shingle. It's not a gutter problem. It's just a warm attic, a cold eave, and a whole lot of convective heat loss begging for a real systemic fix. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into building science. Stay warm, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.